So in one of my last videos, I talked about my podcast studio, and I got a lot of comments, people asking, why do I use a podcast mic instead of just a simple lavalier mic, which is what I use for this YouTube content. Lav mics are simple. You clip them on, you plug it into your camera, bada bing, bada boom, you've got decent sounding audio into camera. Very simple, very quick and easy to use. For podcasting, I use podcast mics. They sound great. It's a very full body sound. They also look professional, right? Clients sit down, and I can't tell you how many times I've had clients just be amazed and they feel very important because they have this fancy professional microphone in front of them. And that's half the battle. When you run a podcast studio, you want your clients to feel professional. Right? We're all in the client service business. We just happen to be doing it with a podcast studio. So it's nice to make your clients feel valued, and you do that with a professional mic. Now, you don't have to use a podcast mic. You could use a lav mic. So we're going to do a little audio test. What you're listening to now is the lav mic. These are great. These are Hollyland mics. I love these things. They're cheap, they're simple, they're easy. I love them. Now let's switch to the pod mic. You ready? This is the Rode PodMic USB version. This is what we use in my professional studios. We keep them pretty close to the mouth. They're nice and simple. You plug them in with an XLR cable, you plug it into your audio interface, and then you're off to the races. So let's compare these two. Now, I have not heard these side by side. If I had to make a prediction, I would say that the pod mic sounds better than the lav mic, but probably not by much. Also, I have a third mic here. This is a boom mic. Let's switch to it. Boom. This is the boom mic just above me. It's a little bit in frame. I did that on purpose so we could kind of see where it's positioned. I typically wouldn't use a boom mic in a podcast because the whole idea is that you want to isolate this person's voice from that person's voice. And the boom mic has a tendency to kind of pick up more of the room. So it's great for like film production and stuff. But for podcasting, you really want to isolate those voices. So let's take this to a computer and see how they sound. You know what I'm gonna do? I always like doing fancy transitions. Let's do this. You ready? And now we're in the edit bay. Look at that. I always like little tricks like that. It doesn't matter how long I've been doing this, just fun little editing tricks like that. I like it. I don't know. Okay, so we're in the edit bay. I've got my 3 mics and we're gonna do a test. Now again, my prediction was that the pod mic is gonna sound better, but the lav mic is gonna be a close second. Let's listen to it. You ready? What you're listening to now is the lav mic. These are great. By the way, this is what you're listening to now is the lav mic. These are great. It doesn't sound bad. These are Hollyland mics, so it sounds good. You could definitely do a podcast with this, right? If I wasn't comparing this with the pod mic, the lav mic would do just fine. So if that's what you got, then that's what you got and use it. So we're gonna switch to the pod mic here. Now let's switch to the pod mic. You ready? This is the Rode PodMic USB version. This is what we use in my pod mic. Sounds a little bit better. Professional studios. We keep them pretty close to the mouth. They're nice and simple. You plug them in with an XLR cable. It just sounds more like rounded. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And maybe it's just that I'm like trained because like I shoot podcasts throughout the week. And so like this is the mic that I listen to. And so I'm just most comfortable with that mic sound. So like maybe that's why I gravitate towards liking the pod mic more than the lav mic. But to me, the pod mic just sounds good. I love it. But the lav mic doesn't sound bad. Here's the lav mic again. Very quick and easy to use. For podcast, so the lav mic, especially with me and my voice, one thing I've learned over the years of recording myself in video and editing it is that my voice is very kind of boomy. There's a low end there that I always cut off with a high pass filter. A high pass filter lets all the higher end stuff pass through and it kills the low end. Sometimes it's called a low cut or a high pass. They're very similar. So especially with lav mics, they sit right here on your chest, which is very boomy. It picks up that boomy low tone. So I always add a high pass filter to men's voice, especially my own voice, but these are untouched. What we're listening to here is not EQ'd at all. If you wanted to do this with your podcast setup, you could run it through a Rodecaster and apply the EQ while you're recording it. That's perfectly fine. But again, these are raw and untouched, and you can just hear how boomy it is. Casting, I use podcast mic. Again, if you're listening to it on your phone, you're probably not hearing that at all, but just know it's boomy. I would apply an EQ if I had to. Now let's do the boom mic, just for fun. Let's see what the boom mic sounds like. I have a third mic here. This is a boom mic. Let's switch to it. Boom. This is the boom mic just above me. It's a little bit in frame. I did that on purpose so we could... That doesn't sound bad. It's very tinny. I can tell that it's a boom mic. Like there's not much low end happening right here. Also, the boom mic I used is kind of a smaller diaphragm mic. So like there are definitely more premium boom mics out there. But I can tell that it's a boom mic. But again, if that's all I had to record a podcast with, it would do just fine. Here it is again, the boom mic. There's a boom mic in a podcast because the whole idea is that you want to isolate this person. It doesn't sound bad. So anyways, all this to say, like, they all sound good. Especially, they all sound good enough for a podcast. So do not let equipment and the lack of owning an expensive microphone, here it is right here, an expensive microphone, get in the way of you recording a podcast. Just use what you have. And if you don't have any of this, just use your phone. Put your phone up to your face and talk into it in a quiet, soft environment. What I mean by soft, like your closet is a great example. If you don't have a studio and you want to record good audio, go to your closet because it's very soft in there. There's clothes hanging up. There's usually carpet. There's usually low ceilings. So like that's a good starting place to record a podcast. But again, use what you got. You be the judge. Let me know what you heard, what you liked the most. Don't let gear at all be a crutch or an excuse for you not to start recording your podcast. All of these are good pieces of equipment to record a podcast. Anyways, thanks for watching. I talk about studio stuff all the time on my YouTube channel. I also have a podcast called Beyond the Studio where I chat with other podcast and photography studio owners and we talk about all things studio related. So, thanks for watching. Bye.